All right, time to have some fun with Imani Cheers, Assistant Professor of Media and Public Affairs at George Washington University. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
I mean, music is obviously big business, but the traditional way musicians got to the market was through a lot of distributors, record labels. I mean, this is dating ourselves probably. And now the new way, what Taylor's doing is she's going to bypass all of that. Let me start with the decision to get rid of Spotify altogether. Why?
I think Taylor she realized that she wants to get her music directly into her fans' hands. I mean, one of the people, she honestly, dare I say it, she followed in Beyonce's footsteps and saying, I'm going to give my content, my creative work directly to my fans, because those are the people who are supporting her, they're buying her merchandise, they're buying her albums,
But why
and they're going to her
can't you
tours.
do both?
I think the problem right now is that doing both sort of splits the pot a little too much. I mean, Taylor's realizing that
It's about the money.
at the end of the day, you know what? She works hard. She works very, very hard.
But it's not like she's poor.
She's definitely not poor. As a matter of fact, in some instances, she's given away some of her money. But realistically, she's saying, you know what? I'm going to take out the middleman. Streaming services, because they're charging their subscribers to actually listen to the content, but they're giving them literally cents on top of cents, and it just isn't adding up.
Does that business model work even then? I mean, this is a whole new question. We had sharing apps, then we had this where it was a kind of a compromise, right? So an artist could put their music on Spotify, they could get paid, maybe not all the money, but a big part of it still. Does this change the dynamics, or is this just a Taylor thing?
I think it changes the dynamics a little bit, because you're looking at the process now where before, again, like you were sharing, like everyone wanted to make sure that there was a legal way that you could access content. And at this point, accessing this content isn't lucrative for the artist. The only way artists really make money out here is actually by touring. It's not even by selling albums. So Taylor, Beyonce, some of these other artists, even Adele and Coldplay, what they've done is, if anything, taken their music off of these streaming services or required at least a 2, sometimes 3-week, almost even a month-long delay before it can be streamed.
You know what's a shocking number? And Ryan told me this earlier about the downloads on Apple. Okay, because this is something that everyone's bragged about for the longest time. You know, ever since the first iPod came around, we started downloading music, and then we talked about how people get paid, or musicians get paid. And last month, actually, the number of downloads decreased. What's happening here?
I think right now the reality is that people are looking for it. Sometimes they don't want to download the whole album, and iTunes is going to give you the option, of course, to download singles, but those end up being pretty expensive when you can actually go to a service like Pandora or even, you know, Beats, Dr. Dre's service. They have a streaming service, you know, and you can get it for free. Right? Or you could pay to get rid of the ads, but it's a minimal amount compared to what the content you're getting.
So what does the future of musicians, for a lot of them who are young and then they're working on songs and they want to get distribution and they want to be the next Taylor Swift, right? What's going to be the best distribution model for them?
I definitely think it's going through indie labels. I think we'd be surprised to see how many indie labels. The Grammys 2014 showed us that independent labels are cornering a solid over 30% of the market share right now. So I really think it's important that, you know, up-and-coming artists who want to get their content out there go directly to the fans. Those are the people who are ultimately going to be putting some money in your pocket.
So going directly to the fans, but does that translate into bigger profits for the musicians? I mean, I guess that's really the question.
Yeah, I think ultimately it does, because they're going to be the ones. Taylor has a very, very strong, vibrant fan base, and they are purchasing her albums, they are out there going to her concerts, they're buying her merchandise, and realistically, you know, her and Beyonce are really redefining music right now.
But for, you know, those two are in a separate category. What about everybody else who used to go to, say, Sony Music or Capitol Records and the EMI, sort of the pre-existing methods? Is that business model dead, or it's just changed a little bit?
I think it's changed a little bit. I don't think it's dead. At the end of the day, if a major label offered someone a record deal, I seriously doubt they would turn it down. But I think realistically, they're looking at ways to produce their content originally, independently, smaller labels that might have the more personal hands-on touch, and they're finding ways to get their content heard.
I saw before we came on here that Spotify had some sort of social media campaign to the fans of Taylor Swift to get her to say yes, which is actually a play on one of her songs. But what would it take for Taylor Swift to come back together with Spotify? Is it, if it's a money thing, then it sounds like if they just gave her a bigger chunk of money, that would solve the problem, would it not?
I don't necessarily know if that would exactly solve the problem. I don't want to put it out there that, you know, these artists are the whole bottom line is finances, right? It's not really about always the money. It is an issue there. And Spotify, they claim that they give over 70% of their revenue service back into the music community. So on the one hand, you know, they do have to operate. I think that it's changing, but I don't think that it's going to completely go away. I think emerging young artists, up and coming, they have various opportunities right now, whether it be independently or big labels. They're still going to get their music out there.
This industry has changed so many times in the past decade. It's been unbelievable. Imani
a lot.
Cheers, thank you again for your insights from George Washington.